Hello and welcome to another episode of Love Revolution. I'm your host, Mia Saenz, and sitting next to me is Umoh Luna, and she is one of our Bella Mia magazine writers. Actually, Umoh is a co-director of our business section. So this is really exciting for us to have her here. But of course, like always, I get so excited to introduce you to everybody that I forgot to mention. Pause this now if you need to get your journals and your pens or your drinks, whatever you need to make you most comfortable. Do your breathing to relax, and then click or unclick pause and bring us back on, and I will give you over to Umoh. So everyone, this is Umoh. She's amazing, and I've actually used her as a business coach for copyright, and I'm doing a little program with her now. So I recommend her to everyone, of course, and and it's great. So welcome, Umoh.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mia. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm happy to be able to do this because, I love you. You're my friend. We work together, and I love your spirit and what you do, your work, and your big, beautiful heart, and how much you care about people, and. So I'm very excited to be part of anything that you're creating, and specifically this. And so my name is Umoh Luna. I am a sacred branding guide for women entrepreneurs. I'm also what I call a word witch. I have a way with words. And so today what I want to talk about is a return to love in business and branding. So there's, a lot of talk about branding, and it's something that people get really excited about, and it's got a lot of buzz around it, but it's also something that we can really use against ourselves, and we can really use in a very old world, old paradigm sort of way that can be very destructive. So the old model of doing business is crush the competition and win at all costs and be the best of the best and, take them down, whatever you need to do, right?
That's so masculine, baby.
Very, very masculine. And also not just very masculine, but very unhealthy masculine. So that's like the shadow side of the masculine, right? So in everything we do, there is some element of balance, or ideally you would like there to be some element of balance between the masculine and the feminine, So that's part of what I want to talk about, is this return to love and bringing the feminine forward and using the masculine and feminine in union with each other in this divine marriage in business, instead of this old unhealthy way where the unevolved, broken, angry masculine is leading. So people are just really sick of that old idea, and it's like you can't have love and success, especially for women. It's like you have to choose. You can't be successful and make and have a happy love life and a happy marriage. You can only have one or the other. So what I want to talk about is this new breed of business and this new breed of entrepreneurs and business people that are doing things differently. And so it is about this bringing back the feminine, integrity, truth, balance. So people are really tired of this slick, overproduced, overpolished crap that we've all been sold. So, and at this point in history, we're being sold to literally every 3.5 seconds as the average American. We spend more time on devices and on screens, and obviously, we're doing that right now. And it can be something really beautiful and magical to bring people together and to have this beautiful connection, but it can also have the exact opposite effect, where there's more and more distance. It's easier and easier to lie and paint whatever picture you want. It's easier and easier to be inauthentic, even as everyone's talking about authenticity. So you might have someone who's, preaching authenticity, but nothing that they're giving is actually real. They show up with 10 pounds of makeup on and, hiding behind a mask that's not really who they are. So, what we want to do is go in the exact opposite direction, because people are tired of being overstimulated, and everybody's super savvy and critical and a little cynical. So in order for you to kind of let this go, what you really have to do, instead of trying to pretend like you have it all together, which is what usually people do in business, instead of doing that, which actually holds you back and distracts you and wastes so much energy, you want to go in the complete opposite direction. And you want to be more real. You want to be raw versus quote unquote authentic, because this whole idea of being authentic is in itself skewed and polished and messy in the wrong direction. So when you go to the other side of what it means to be real, and you can be vulnerable, and you can open up your heart, that is what's going to inspire people to want to join your movement. They're going to want to hear your message. They're going to want to know more about who you are, what you have to say, your wisdom, which is going to translate into you having an audience, a tribe of people that are excited about who you are and what you do, and they want to buy your products and your services, and they want to invest in you because you inspire them to feel good about themselves, not because you make them feel so bad about themselves that they think they have to buy from you in order to be okay.
Or be like you.
Exactly, to be like you, right? And that's another thing of selling this lifestyle that's, also usually not real. It's fabricated and living on brand and all of that sort of stuff, which, it's not necessarily bad to live on brand. It's not necessarily bad to, have a fabulous lifestyle. But when people sell you that, they often leave out the fact that it took them 12 years to get there. They might leave out the fact that, they have this big, beautiful house, but they're only renting it, and they're only renting it for a few months, and then they're, back to the vagabond life because they don't have any money. Not because it's so fabulous to be on the road and travel all the time, So, there's a lot of room in these stories for a lot more truth and a lot more integrity. So let me talk about, how to come back to that, and how to, bring the return to love to your business and your brand. So the very first thing is you want to put yourself back on the top of the list. You want to make yourself the top priority, because, it's been the old school way is like you just work, your business comes first, you go until you can't go anymore. It doesn't matter. You just push, right? But when you do that, you never bring the best of who you are to your work, to your clients, to your family, to any piece of your life, because you're burnt out, you're drained, you're exhausted, you're tired, right? So, you can't really give from that beautiful, full place. So the very first thing to do is you want to return the love to yourself. You want to put yourself on the top of the list, and you fill your own cup. And when you fill your own cup, then you give from the overflow. And that way you're never depleted, you're never drained, and you're always giving from a place of being centered and full. And that way you never deplete who you are, and you always give the best of who you are because you're coming from that full place, right? So, and you allow room for pleasure and play, right, which has not traditionally been part of the model, and sometimes there's actual, there's esoteric value to that, and there's also very grounded practical value. For example, Einstein and Newton, a lot of people that are these, revolutionarily, highly respected geniuses in our society, they didn't get their ideas when they were hard at work. They didn't get their most, influential ideas when they were hard at work. They got them when they stopped to rest and play and to unplug. And sometimes, unless you do that, you're not going to get those most brilliant downloads. Not all those pieces are going to click together for you. For example, Einstein got his theory of relativity in the shower. Newton figured out gravity when he was sitting under a tree with the falling apple. All of these things. It's like, if you don't allow yourself that space to unplug, you can never be in your highest level of genius. And that means you can never bring your highest level of expertise to your clients. So I want you to see that, there is both sides, the masculine and the feminine, of what the value of approaching life in this, and your business in this more feminine, soft way is. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is focus on serving over selling. Now, am I telling you not to market, not to sell your services? Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you don't put energy and effort into that and that you don't consider it, but that's not where you put your main focus. Your first priority in how you show up in your business is from a place of service, contribution, value, right? So why are we doing this? Most of us start these businesses because we want to change the world, because we want to have an impact, because we want to help people heal and transform, and we have these big hearts, right? But sometimes when we get into the business mind, we get distracted and we start to make it all about the money. Or we think, oh my God, if I don't make this money, then how am I going to pay my rent? And that starts to take over. And, I'm not saying you don't have to consider those things, but the truth of the matter is, usually there's more money than you think there is, number one. And number two, if you can let go of making it all about the money, then you can just give. You're going to actually create much more money that way than if you come from that desperate, clingy, I have to make money place, because that's going to turn people off and push them away. So when you come to that place of giving love and value to your people first, it's extremely powerful. So instead of saying, what can I say to make people buy? Ask yourself, what does my tribe's soul need to hear from me? What is that big gift that I'm going to give to them? And that's going to create a higher level of value for them, and that's going to make them more inspired to invest in what you have to offer. Okay. And then the last point is, and this is the core of what I teach in my business, in my sacred branding work, is to reveal yourself. So usually in brand, people use their brand as a mask. They use it as a shield, something to hide behind, as something to protect themselves. So the more you protect, the more you hide, the more you cover up, the less of you there is to shine. The more boring and bland and uninteresting you are. And if there's one cardinal sin in branding, it's being boring. Okay? So you want to go in that complete opposite direction. Once again, you want to use your brand as a place to reveal who you really are. And as you peel away those layers and you strip down the shame and the lies and the old stories about who you are and who you've pretended to be and who you're pretending to be, then you're going to let your own brilliance, your own beauty, your light, your gifts shine and come through, and your essence, right? So sometimes we think that what we do is more important than who we are. And the truth of the matter is it isn't. People come to us because of who we are more than than what we do. So that speaks much louder than what you think your skill set is. Because the truth of the matter is, there's plenty of people that do the exact same thing as you. And there's plenty of people that their system and their strategy is almost identical to yours, right? But it doesn't matter. The reason people come to you is because of who you are. That is what's going to inspire them and make them feel safe and hold the space so they can create the change and the transformation that they need in their life. So, this is a weird one because, people think, I don't want to show too much of myself because then, people are going to think poorly of me if I show my flaws. But actually, the exact opposite happens. The more that you're willing to be vulnerable and open, the more you're going to be able to connect with people. So there's something kind of magical about pain. And the traditional marketers know what's all about it, and they use it in almost in this form of the dark arts, like black magic, to hammer into people and hook people in and into their pain to make them feel less than and dirty and not good enough, so they'll buy from them, right? Now, I don't think this is the way to do business, but there is something to pain, and humans bond through pain. So one of the most powerful things you can do in your brand and in your business is to share your pain. And use pain instead of a point to manipulate people, use it as a point of connection, right? So when you share your pain, you share your struggles, you share your stories of the valleys and the pits that you've been in, then you show people that they're not alone. And that makes them inspired, and that motivates them and lets them know, hey, you know what? Maybe it is available for me too. Maybe I can have this, because if she had these struggles and she was able to turn it around, maybe I can too. So that's the last point about, revealing yourself, is that I want to invite you into sharing your pain. And I hope you understand why that's so powerful, why that's so effective, and what's different about that from the other model of using people's pains to manipulate and hook them. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover.
That's awesome. You're a fast talker.
I am. And when I get excited about, what I'm sharing, I talk faster. So I always try and work on getting myself to slow down, but I'm not always successful. So,
can I say what I really loved about what you shared? Sure. Besides that I adore you, but what I really loved about what you shared was the difference between authenticity, branding, hiding, and all that stuff, because there were, for about 5 years, all you heard about was, you got to be your brand, you got to be your brand, you got to be your brand, right? Mm-hmm. So people took it to the extreme, you know? And then now we've realized that we connect deeper and more passionately with people when we are ourselves. It's crazy because you remember I was branded the Passion Muse. Mm-hmm. And people would say, well, what the hell's a Passion Muse? Besides bringing passion into people's lives, I was also a relationship and sexpert. But it had really nothing to do with that aspect of my, you know what I'm saying? So I reconnected with Mia Saenz as my brand. Mm-hmm. And I'm still, we still are always a piece of art in progress. Otherwise we get stagnant and stale and dissipate, out of the ether. So
no, that's such a good point, and that's one thing that I say about brand is that it's like your brand is always an evolution, especially if you're a person who's on a spiritual path, because you're always evolving, you're always growing, you're always changing. So periodically, your brand needs to be updated to match who you are now, and instead of trying to be your brand and trying to fit yourself into this box that you decided you should be, you should let your brand be you. So kind of flipping it around,
One of the first brands I ever heard of was in the 80s. Do you remember the Frugal Gourmet?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that was like the first time I ever heard anybody use it's really genius when you think about it. That's so forward thinking.
Yeah, it's great.
Mm-hmm. And so his concept about food was teaching people how to prepare food and eat food on a budget, frugally. Mm-hmm. And so, but yet it was still good, hearty, brilliant, nutritious stuff. So that's the first brand I ever heard. But when we think about it, Goodrich Tires, they were a brand, Michelin, a brand. But we don't always think about big companies being a brand, unless you think about it. Like Nike's a brand, which is really one of the best expressions of brands, but us littler people than the Fortune 500, it's really, I love how you brought that up because it's interesting,
I'm glad you brought that up also, and that's something else to talk about is, a lot of people that are in the branding world, they come from the corporate American background, right? And branding for a huge company or a huge corporation that has, millions of dollars and thousands of employees is a 100% different game than, for us solopreneurs who, at the most have thousands to invest in our business and our brand, So a lot of times part of the issue I have with branding is that those tools and those techniques that they bring from corporate America don't translate for the more one-on-one solopreneur, or, even if you have a team and, let's say you have a team, your team is going to be maybe, 10, 20 people. It's not going to be, thousands of employees. You don't have the same resources at your disposal. It's a completely different game. So one of the things I tell my clients is, stop wasting your time on trying to find the perfect logo, I mean, if you think about anybody who's successful in your industry as, a personal brand, it's if for business, to say like Ali Brown or, Marie Forleo, so these people, when I say their name, you don't think of their logo. I'm sure they have one, but you think of their face.
Right.
So when you're a solopreneur, your face is your logo. That's it. You don't need to waste your time, And so that's something that people get mixed up with in brand, is they spend all this time on these little nitpicky things, and it can honestly be a way to check out of doing the real work that's going to actually move your business forward, of sharing your message, creating content that, encapsulates who you are and your gifts and all of that. You can shy away from it and hide behind, I have to get my website perfect and pick all the right colors. It doesn't fucking matter. That's the truth at the end of the day. It doesn't matter.
It drives me
Have you ever said, I really love this person, I really want to work with them, and then you went and looked at their website and said, but their website's the wrong color, so forget it?
Well, 3 years ago, the coach that I've hired many business coaches, but when I realized, I'm going to check them out by, I already knew her, but check her out. She didn't even have a website.
Exactly.
And she already was making, $500,000 a year. Now she's multi-millionaire. So, but now, of course, she does. But she didn't have a brand. I mean, she had a brand, but she didn't have a site. And so I went by the fact that, of course, I knew her, and the fact that I saw what she was doing. I think people connect more with tangible evidence than, wow, they have an incredible website. Like my website, we put it up about 2 years ago. We changed it from the Passion Muse to Mia Saenz. And for the last year, we've been talking behind the scenes about working it and fixing it and little bits here and there about recreating it. But frankly, I don't have the time to actually invest in it. And people will come and they'll say, wow, I just saw your website. It's incredible, the work you do. And I'm like, really? Okay.
It's too. I think my website is horrible and it's very minimal, and I really don't care that much. But but people are like, oh, it's so pretty, and I'm like, really? Okay, thanks. But it's like that same thing of like, it's not the top priority for me. And I know that your website can be important. It can be a reflection of your brand, but it's not your brand. The colors are not your brand. Who you are is your brand, and when you stand in that, you magnetize your people much quicker, and also you attract people that are much more in alignment with you, people that are your people. And when you work with people that are on the same page, on the same vibration, the same wavelength, it makes everything easier. It's easier for them too to get results, because there's less time wasted trying to translate things into a different language. When you already speak the same language, you're already part of the same tribe. It makes it easier on so many levels. So that's why, this it's like a subtle shift in certain ways, but it makes a huge, huge difference,
How exciting. When you were talking about, it doesn't matter what the colors are, it doesn't matter this, because I've gone round and round with a graphic artist who I work with on different projects, and she kept saying, you've got to get your colors, and and I'm thinking, people buy me. They don't buy my website. And I tell people that all the time. You're either going to hire me because you know the work that I do and that it transforms people's lives, or you're going to buy the magazine, Bella Mia, who sponsored this beautiful Love Revolution, or you're going to buy the magazine because it's a powerful magazine that has changed your life or others. You don't care that Oprah doesn't own it. You buy it because of the content. So, and sometimes we feel arrogant by saying that, but I've said to many people, because I have these meetings all the time, but I've had many people that I just say, you're either buying me, and I've said that to clients, you're buying me or you're not. If you can find somebody who, if they don't want to pay my price, well, actually, I don't really say it like that, but the point is that, if somebody wants us for our brand, for our work, they're going to hire us if they feel that it's important enough to them.
Right.
With friends behind the scenes, I'll say, well, they're either buying me or they're not buying me, just like they're buying you or they're not buying you. And that's the thing about, about who we are, which is so much fun. It really, really is fun to be out there and to express ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. And I think networking is a really huge part of business, because if you can't make the connections lovingly with your sisters and your brothers, currency is so much in the connections.
Oh, I agree. Definitely.
You have.
You know, it's an interesting point because everybody wants to do everything online and virtually, which, that can be extremely, extremely powerful and important. And if you want to build a business long term, you have to do that. However, you can't build a business completely from behind the computer. I mean, you can, but it's going to take you 10 times longer. Some people, so let's say Suzanne Evans, right? So she built her 6-figure business on a list of 500 people, Now that's because those 500 people she had met in person. She had made an actual physical connection, And that's why they say, to do videos or, because it gets closer to that actual feeling of being in person,
Right.
So, yes, automate, leverage, all these things, that's great. But at the foundation, like you said, it's all about connection,
It really is. And that's incredible. It really is. And especially with this huge, vast world where, like Suzanne, she went out and she met these people, but we're stepping so fast away from that, being an internet online, we're all online marketers because we're marketing our online businesses.
Right.
And so that's really cool when I do some freebies where I do readings or something just to get connected to my tribe.
Yeah.
I say to them, the first thing I say to them, or people who find me on the internet or wherever they come to communicate with me, I'll say, how did you find me? Because that's the fun part, is the connection part, because we do so much behind the scenes, but yet we're still visible, that we love to get notes from people. We love to interact with people. We love to know how you found us, because in the old days, 5+ years ago, which isn't very old, we used to perform more on stage. And I know I used to speak a lot more on stage than I do now. I speak on the radio. I speak on people's shows. My point is that we want the connection with you guys. So we want to be able to say, hey, how did you find me? It's so nice to meet you, and actually have that
real one-on-one connection. Yeah. It's priceless. There's nothing else like it.
Exactly.
And the other thing is too, yes, you can build something online. You can build a huge business and brand virtually, all these things, but all of that takes time. And it's so much, like you said, with the networking. There's strategies to use online and offline, and the most powerful and the fastest way to build your business is when you bring the two together. It's not necessarily one or the other. And if you try and do all one way or all the other, you're going to be cutting yourself off.
And loving what you do, this just came to me because it's true for both of us. Loving what you do is really the fastest and best way to grow your business. Don't go into business for something that you don't love, and that's something that's not you. Because
just make money, or and that's the thing. It's like sometimes we get sidetracked in that. We go into business because what we're passionate about and how we want to show up in the world, and then sometimes things don't work and things don't click, and we think, oh, maybe nobody wants what I have to offer. Maybe no one wants what I'm selling. And usually that's not true. It's just that, you need some tweaking around how to talk about it. You need to maybe in yourself have a tweak about how you're feeling about yourself, so you're valuing what you're bringing to the table, so other people will value it.
Right. And something else that I learned from Umoh is, when we have a list and we write them, it's really great. And it's important to keep in touch with your list all the time. It's important to keep in touch with our tribe. Without you guys, we couldn't bring you all these amazing shows and stuff. I mean, this is the connection part. But what's really important is making sure you have somebody like Umoh behind you that can help teach you how to write your copyright. When she first helped me with my copy, I had been in business probably 5 years, but when she helped me with my copy a year or so ago, my world exploded. I mean, exploded. So around my work, and it's really important and valuable to have certain lessons. There are certain lessons that we need from other people that they're not a part of who we are. So, but they can become a part of us when we're taught by somebody who knows knows how to teach as well.
Exactly. Thank you for sharing that, Mia. That makes me feel so good. And
Yeah.
I feel so grateful and honored that I got to be a part of you, exploding and bringing your work, to more people and helping more people to like love themselves and have, better relationships and, feel beautiful and have all these experiences that they wouldn't have had if you didn't touch their life. So.
Yeah. And there's a difference between just Facebook and our outside connections with everybody else, because I had tons of people that were my clients from Facebook, but when I stepped out to the real world, to you guys, and Facebook's the real world too, but when we open up another door, like you're at Disneyland, and you can either go to Adventureland, Tomorrowland, or it's a Small World land, so which path you want to conquer 1, 2, and 3, so take 1 and 2 and then work on 3, so it's whichever path you want to go to. If that makes sense.
It does. I love it. And another thing, what you said earlier, sometimes we feel like we should have it all figured out by ourselves. We should be able to do it all alone, and something's wrong with us if we don't, And the truth of the matter is, anybody who does anything great has, a coach or someone who supports them, has a team around them. For example, I can't remember her right now, but the woman who swam, do you know what I'm talking about, Mia?
The English, the British, yeah.
Okay, I can't remember exactly, but this woman...
I can't remember her name, but yeah.
She's older, she's like 60-something years old.
And that was like probably about 3 years ago in the news or something, right?
Yeah, she tried to, swim this...
Do it before, couldn't do it, and then she...
Nobody could do it, hadn't been done, whatever. Something like this. I don't remember the exact details. But anyways, she tried when she was in her prime. She couldn't do it, She finally did it when she was in her 60s. And one of the first things she said when she came out of the water was, thank you to her team. And she wanted to let people know that there was no way she could have done this by herself, She had another boat following her, with, feeding her along the way because she was out there for like 3 days or something.
Right, swimming.
Yeah. So number one, let go of the story that you have to do it alone and that, if you don't, it doesn't count. Because the truth of the matter, anybody that does anything great doesn't do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing I want to say about that is that for sometimes the thing that we are the best at, that's our true area of genius, that we can give to other people, we cannot give to ourselves. Because that's our blind spot. Part of the reason why we're so good at it and why we're so wise in that area is because we have struggled so much with ourselves, right? So for you, maybe part of the reason that you are able to help women, feel beautiful and to find love and, have these experiences is because of the struggle that you had yourself, right?
Right. Exactly. Well, it is, yeah.
So that means that for ourselves, even though we have all this wisdom, it's still our trap door for ourselves. So that means we always need to have somebody help us do for us what we're doing for them. So I'm taking some classes right now. I'm in a program with an amazing branding coach because it's easy for me to look at someone else and help them tune in and see what part of themselves they're hiding that's magical that people are going to love. But it's hard for me to see that for myself, So.
And I agree with you. One of the hardest things for me to do recently was to say, and which I contacted you, was to say, hey, I need some help. I'm stuck. For me to admit that publicly, I mean, it's not hard, but it's something that I don't, write on Facebook or something else. And I was like, I need just a little ass kicking, just in an area for you to ass kick me.
Right.
You're like, okay,
kick your ass.
I can do that. So we created something where we're going to start to work again. You're going to start to coach me. So even coaches who are successful hire coaches. I mean, just so people understand, because sometimes people think, well, we get to a certain level and that's it. If we think that's just how life is. If we get to a certain level and we stop, we die. So in our business, if we don't want our businesses to die, if we don't want just like if you don't want your diet to die or your life to die or your weight or your workout training, whatever it is, you get the help that's out there because that's what takes us from point A, not just to point B, but to point Z. It takes us all the way to be successful. And You know, I'm one of the people just like all of you guys where it's like, do I really need a coach for this or for that? Well, yeah, and Uma and I have these financial goals that we're like thinking, wow, let's see if we can play with stuff and let's see what magic we can create in a short amount of time that's different than what we normally create. So it's good. It's good. Thank you.
And I also wanted to offer to the community, to you who are listening, a special opportunity. I want to give you what I call an alchemy session. So basically what I do is, it's just really short, it's really quick, where I come, this is more from my intuitive side, where, you know, you tell me what's going on with you, where you're stuck in your work, you know, what's not working for you, and I'll just tune in and give you some practical pointers about how you can turn things around and get things moving. So it's only 20 minutes, so it's not, you know, going to go super in depth. It's not a sales call. It's not a strategy session. These are my gift that I'm offering to you as, you know, part of my beautiful friend Nia's community, and part of, you know, to you who are seekers, who are lovers, and who are these visionaries that want to make the world a better place. So I'm excited to offer that to you guys. And so the way that you can access that is just to go to sacredbranding.com/alchemy.
And we'll also have that in the daily email for you. And you know what? I implore you guys to do this because she is fun. She is fun.
I do like to have fun with people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Not everything has to be hard, you know, and even if it's hard, it could still be fun. You know?
Exactly. It's awesome. Thank you so much for being on with us. You are
Thank you.
We already know you're a delight, but you are just so delightful. It was awesome.
Thanks, love. Well, so appreciate being here. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you. And we'll see you all in another episode. Bye.